What if I told you that in 10 years of working ICU nights, I've learned that death isn't the end of a patient's presence in our unit, that sometimes what we call the soul lingers long after the body stops breathing, and it chooses very specific places to make itself known. Before we begin, where are you listening from, and have you subscribed yet? My name is Corinne. I'm a 33-year-old ICU nurse. I've worked nights for almost 10 years, and by now I feel more awake at 3 a.m. than I do when the sun's out. I used to be afraid of death, how quickly it came, how quietly. Now I think I'm more afraid of what gets left behind. Not the physical stuff, I mean the parts we can't explain, the things we pretend we didn't see, the things that keep showing up behind bed 7's curtain. We stopped assigning patients to that bed unless we had to, not because of anything official, of course, just nurse superstition, they said. A little joke, but we all knew something felt wrong there. Vitals monitors that blinked even when nothing was plugged in. Call buttons buzzing faintly when no one was in the room. That sense of being watched, heavier than eyes, more like pressure on your chest. When I was new, I assumed I was just tired, but then I noticed how no one lingered by bed 7 unless they absolutely had to. It started again 2 weeks ago. We were full overflow from trauma, and I was told to prep bed 7 for a middle-aged man who'd coded on the floor below. He never regained consciousness. Vitals tanked. They moved him to us for observation, as if putting him closer to the monitors might save what was left. I remember pulling the curtain closed when we got him settled. His wife had brought a small radio that played old jazz quietly. It was almost comforting, the way the notes filled the space between alarms. That night, I came back to check on him, and the curtain was open halfway. I swore I'd pulled it shut, full round. Everyone else denied touching it. I closed it again and went on my rounds. When I came back an hour later, it was open again, just slightly, but enough to see the bed. The man was still there, still unconscious, still dying. I closed it, harder this time, and double-checked the latch on the rail. I stood there for a minute, just watching, listening. The jazz had stopped. The air felt heavier. The third time I came back, the bed was empty. He'd coded. Again, this time it stuck. We followed protocol, called it, prepped the room for post-mortem transfer. I pulled the curtain closed like always, and when I turned to leave, I saw it move. Just a twitch, a ripple, like someone exhaling behind it. I told myself it was airflow from the ceiling vent, even though the vent above bed 7 hasn't worked in years. The next few nights, that curtain kept opening on its own. No patient inside, no one assigned to the bed, but the vitals monitor would blink green sometimes, as if sensing a heartbeat. The call light would go off at 3:19 a.m., 3 nights in a row. I logged it, reported it. Maintenance said it was just faulty wiring, but the curtain wasn't wired. One night, I decided to stand beside the bed for an entire hour, just to watch. I brought a chair, sat down, and listened. The unit was quiet, only the usual hum of machines, the occasional cough from another room. Then, exactly at 3:19, I saw it. The curtain twitched. Not wildly, just once. Enough to catch the eye. I held my breath, half expecting something to peek through, but there was only silence. That was the worst part. It was too quiet. I didn't hear the usual buzz of the lights, the gentle hiss of oxygen from the war units, just the sound of the blood in my ears. I don't remember falling asleep, but I woke up still in the chair, neck stiff, the curtain pulled fully open. The bed was untouched, the monitor was off, but something had left an impression in the pillow, the kind a head makes, a weight, still warm. After that, I started talking to it. I know how that sounds. I didn't expect answers, but it felt wrong to ignore it. "You can go," I whispered one night. "There's no one here for you now." The curtain didn't move that night, or the night after, but on the third night, the jazz radio turned on. It startled me. I hadn't seen it since we bagged the man's things. I checked the nurse's station. The radio was there, unplugged, battery removed, still playing softly. Just a few crackly notes, then silence. I didn't touch it. I didn't report it. I just turned it to face the wall. I think whatever was behind that curtain left something behind, Or maybe it wasn't him at all. Maybe it was always the curtain or the space it surrounds, something about boundaries. Maybe whatever visits doesn't want to be seen, just acknowledged, not talked to, not helped, just known. The last time the curtain moved was 3 nights ago. I wasn't even near it, but I saw it from the central desk. A smooth, full pullback, like someone exiting, slowly, carefully. I walked over with my heart pounding in my throat. The bed was empty, but the pillow had that same indentation. I touched it, cold this time, not freezing, just vacant. Since then, it hasn't moved. No calls, no false vitals, nothing. As if it finally left, or got tired of waiting. I still walk by it, still glance, still pause, and sometimes I wonder if I gave it something to go with, a last bit of presence, a recognition. The other nurses laugh when I tell them about it, or they pretend to, but I've seen the way they glance toward bed 7 when they pass it, quick, nervous, like checking a dark room you swear you turned the light off in. Maybe we all know something we'll never put in a report. Some curtains stay closed, some open themselves, and some breathe. The monitor in room 12 doesn't beep like the others. It pulses, soft and slow, like a heartbeat just under the skin of the building. It's a private room, tucked into the back corner of the surgical ICU, isolated from the central hallway by a short stretch of tile that always echoes louder than it should. The walls don't insulate sound well, but in that room you hear almost nothing, not even your own thoughts sometimes. Just that pulsing light on the monitor, blinking green, waiting for a patient that isn't there. My name is Taylor. I'm 29, and I've been a nurse for 6 years. I work mostly in trauma and surgical ICU. I've seen enough to make peace with death, or so I thought, but room 12 shook something in me I didn't know was loose. I don't scare easily, not by shadows, not by creaks, but I do get haunted, quietly. The kind that sits on your chest while you sleep and whispers that you forgot something important. It started with Mr. Harrow. He came in after a massive cardiac arrest, coded twice before he even made it to us. We stabilized him, barely. By the time I got him settled in room 12, he was still unconscious but breathing. We all knew the prognosis was grim. There was a look in his eyes, even while closed, like he was already gone and just hadn't been told yet. He coded again that night, 212A. Man, that detail always sticks in my head. We tried for 19 minutes. I was the one doing compressions when the doctor called it. His chest felt empty beneath my hands, like I was pushing on memory, not muscle. We cleaned him, logged the time, tagged the chart, 2:31 a.m. I remember because the wall clock was 5 minutes fast, and we joked about how even the dead had to wait for admin. The next night, I had a lighter load. I walked past room 12 on my way to supply, and heard the monitor beeping, a steady, slow rhythm. The door was closed, the room dark. I paused, confused, because no one was supposed to be in there. I opened the door, expecting to see housekeeping, or maybe a misplaced chart. The room was empty, the bed stripped, lights off, but the monitor blinked green, perfect vitals, heart rate 64, oxygen 98%. There were no leads attached, nothing plugged in. I stood there for too long, just watching. Then the vitals flatlined, without sound. No alarm, no decline, just one clean drop from steady to gone. I checked the machine, no power cord, no patient ID entered. I unplugged it, even though it already wasn't connected. I told myself it was a glitch. The older monitors had memory echoes sometimes. Nothing serious, but I avoided room 12 for the rest of the night. The following shift, 2:12 a.m., exactly, I heard the same beeping. I didn't go in, I just stood in the hall, listening. That's when I heard the cough. Soft, shallow, from inside the room. Not recorded on any monitor, not announced on the intercom. Just a breath, a cough. Human and tired. I opened the door, and for a second I saw him, Mr. Harrow, lying in the bed like he'd never left it. Eyes open, staring, mouth parted like he'd just tried to speak. And then the lights flickered, and he was gone. The bed was bare, the monitor dark, but the cough had been real. I heard it in my bones. I didn't tell anyone, not because I didn't believe it, but because I did. After that, I checked the room every night at 2:10. Sometimes the monitor would light up, sometimes not, but on the nights it did, I always saw the vitals settle into that same rhythm, 64 beats per minute, always the same numbers. I pulled his file, looked at his baseline vitals. That was his normal resting heart rate before the arrest. It wasn't a glitch, it was a memory. One night, I sat just outside room 12, watching. 212 came and went. Nothing. No beeping, no flickers. Then I noticed the chart on my tablet had refreshed. I opened it. Room 12 had an entry. Mr. Harrow, admitted. No timestamp, no attending listed, just the name. I blinked, refreshed the screen. It disappeared. That was the first time I cried at work in years. After that, things escalated. Other nurses started asking why the room kept getting marked as occupied on the roster, why sometimes the door would be locked when no one had gone inside. No one else saw him, but a few heard the monitor beeping when they passed by. One of the new techs swore she heard a voice whisper her name as she entered. She left in the middle of her shift and never came back. I started leaving the door to room 12 open. It helped somehow, like air needed to flow through, like keeping it closed trapped something inside. Eventually, the nurse manager asked me why I was spending so much time near an empty room. I didn't know how to answer. How do you explain to someone that you're waiting for a ghost to stop checking in? One night, during an unusually quiet shift, I went in and stood by the bed. I whispered his name, told him it was okay to rest, that we had done our best, that we were sorry we couldn't do more. The monitor didn't light up that night, nor the next. I thought maybe that was the end of it, but just last week, I passed room 12 on my way to the lounge. The door was cracked open, the light was off, but from inside, I heard the monitor beep once, just once, not a full rhythm, just a single quiet tone. I walked past, didn't look in, didn't need to, because I've come to understand something. Not every death ends clean. Not every ghost wants revenge. Some just want to keep showing up, like they're still part of the unit, still part of the code, still trying. We don't use room 12 much anymore, not unless we have to. But sometimes I go in, sit on the bed, and let the quiet wrap around me. Not because I expect to see him, but because I know he's still there, trying to finish what we all started. There's a chair in room 3 that doesn't belong to the hospital. It's not part of the standard issue ICU furniture. No rolling wheels, no adjustable height. It's older, wooden, heavy. Someone must have brought it in years ago, and then it never left. The cushion on the seat is faded blue, almost gray now, and the arms are worn down where hands have rested too many times. It always sits in the corner, angled toward the bed, like it's waiting for something to happen or someone to come back. My name is Nina. I'm 41 years old, and I've been a nurse for nearly 2 decades. I don't scare easy anymore. You see too much. You stop reacting to the small stuff. Blood, screaming, flat lines. I've learned to tuck them away in the part of my brain reserved for the necessary. But some things don't get filed neatly. Some things stay quiet and still, like the man who sits in that chair. Room 3 is near the ICU entrance, which means it's usually where we put patients who are on the edge, stable enough to monitor closely, but not bad enough to need isolation. The turnover's fast, in and out, sometimes within hours, but the chair never moves. It just sits there, facing the bed, as if keeping watch. The first time I noticed something was off, it was subtle. I'd been tending to a patient with pneumonia, Mr. Langford, in his 70s, post-op complications. He'd been in and out of lucidity for a couple days. One night, while adjusting his IV, I heard him say he's back again. Who? I asked, thinking maybe he meant his son, who visited regularly. He pointed toward the corner without looking. Him, with the blue sweater. The chair was empty. I told myself he was confused. Medication, low oxygen, maybe even fever dreams. But he said it again the next night. He's early tonight. Usually waits till it's dark. I asked around, casually. Had anyone been in the room? A cleaner? A visitor? No one had. I checked the logs. Nothing. Still, I didn't think much of it until other patients started saying similar things. Weeks apart, different ages, different conditions, all pointing to the same chair, all describing the same man, blue sweater, sitting still, legs crossed, watching. Then came Mrs. Ellison, middle-aged, recovering from a stroke. She had no cognitive impairment, was mentally sharp. She rang the call bell at 3 a.m., shaking. When I came in, she was curled up, eyes wide. "There was someone here," she whispered, "sitting right there." He didn't say anything, just stared. I thought maybe he was a doctor. I asked what he looked like. She described him down to the stitching on the cuffs of his sweater. We changed her room the next morning. I stopped brushing it off after that. Still, the man never showed himself to me. Not at first. I'd glance at the chair, sure I'd catch movement, a shift of weight, the shadow of someone leaning in, but it always looked the same, empty, still, expectant. One night, I decided to sit in it. The unit was calm, no codes, no chaos, just the low hum of machines and the distant beeping of vitals monitors. I walked into room 3 and slowly sat in the chair. It was warm. That was the first thing. It shouldn't have been. The room was cool, the bed unoccupied, but the cushion had heat, subtle, like someone had just gotten up. I sat perfectly still, facing the bed, and felt a pressure behind me. Not touch, just presence, like being watched through glass. I don't know how long I stayed there, but eventually, I whispered, "Who are you waiting for?" The room creaked. Not the building, not the pipes, the room. A single groan from the wall behind the bed. I stood up, left the room, didn't go back until morning. Things got stranger after that. One patient, a young man post-op from a motorcycle crash, began talking in his sleep. I heard him over the monitor. "He's not here for me. He's not here for me." Over and over. He crashed the next day. No warning signs, no vital instability, just gone. Another patient passed during the night. Her daughter arrived just after, hysterical. She claimed she saw a man leave the room as she entered. She asked if he was a priest. We hadn't sent anyone. I watched the security footage myself. There was no one, but she swore up and down he had been there, sitting in the chair, holding her mother's hand. That's the thing. I don't think he's malevolent. I think he's waiting for who, I don't know, but it's always the same. The chair faces the bed. The patients see him before they decline. Not frightened, more like comforted, in a way I don't understand. The final straw for me was a patient named Mr. Feld. He'd been in room 3 for 3 days, recovering from sepsis. One night, I came in to check his lines, and he was already awake. "He's here," he said. I knew what he meant. I turned toward the chair, expecting the usual nothing, but he was there for the first time I saw him. Middle-aged, blue sweater, eyes like a wall, blank, not cruel, just neutral. His hands were folded neatly in his lap, his legs crossed. He didn't move, didn't blink. I froze. Mr. Feld smiled. "He's not here for me," he said. I looked back at him, then back at the chair. It was empty. He coded an hour later, died on the table. I stopped assigning patients to room 3 after that, unless I absolutely had to. Management doesn't believe in ghosts, but they believe in incident reports, and I've had too many unexplained ones. Now the chair sits empty most nights, but sometimes, just sometimes, I find it moved slightly, angled a little more toward the hallway, or turned back like someone stood up quickly. The cushion is still warm when I check. I never sit there anymore, and I don't ask who he's waiting for, because what if it's me? What if the next time I walk in, he turns his head or stands, the chair remains? Old wood, faded cushion, a seat not meant for us, and always watching. The glass wall in room 18 fogs even when the rest of the ICU stays dry. It's one of those semi-private rooms, partitioned by thick glass, that once gave families privacy before the hospital redesigned everything to feel more open. Most of the time, that wall stays clear, but sometimes, especially around 3 a.m., A thin veil of condensation forms across it, soft, even, like a breath pressed against memory. And sometimes, in the middle of that fog, a name appears, always the same one. Mira. I'm Layla, 26. I've been a nurse for 1.5 years now, just long enough to lose the illusion that medicine saves everyone, just long enough to start waking up from dreams of code blues that never resolve. I wanted to help people, I still do, but I've come to learn that in this place, some people don't want help, some just want to be remembered. I first noticed the name during my 3rd solo overnight. We'd just lost a patient in room 18, sepsis, rapid decline. One of those quiet deaths, no family around, no final words. I was in there alone, prepping the bed for transport. I looked up at the glass and saw the fog rolling in from the bottom. No temperature change, no steam, just moisture creeping up, smooth and deliberate. And in the center, 4 letters traced softly into the glass. Mira. I wiped it away, assuming it had come from my breath, or maybe someone had written it earlier and the pattern was just revealing itself again. The next night, it returned, same name, same style, same faint curve to the R. I asked around, patients, staff, even maintenance. No one knew a Mira. No one had charted one. I checked the roster from the past month. No Mira, no Mirabelle, no similar names at all. I stopped mentioning it after that. It felt like something I wasn't supposed to talk about, something that belonged to the silence of night shift. A week later, we admitted a stroke patient to room 18. Her name was Mrs. Driscoll, mid-60s, non-verbal but conscious, the kind of patient who blinks at you like she's trying to scream through her eyes. The night was quiet, no codes, no call lights, just that steady hum of machinery we all stopped noticing after a while. I went in to check her vitals and noticed her staring at the glass. Not just staring, frozen. Her eyes were locked on something, wide and terrified. I followed her gaze. The fog had returned, and so had the name, Mira, written backward this time, as if from the inside. Mrs. Driscoll began to cry, silent tears, no sobs, just water slipping down her cheeks as she stared at the name. I wiped it again, comforted her, told her it was nothing, but it wasn't nothing. Over the next few nights, her vitals worsened. No medical reason, no infection, no shift in labs, just slow decline. She died on the 5th night. Time of death, 3:12 a.m. I was the one who closed her eyes. I tried to forget it, but room 18 wouldn't let me. Every time it sat empty, the name came back. Even when I cleaned the glass with alcohol, even when I asked maintenance to inspect the vent, even when I left the thermostat running colder than usual, always the same, Mira. One night, I stood there in front of it and whispered, "Who are you?" No answer, but I swear the name darkened like a breath had just been pressed behind it. That's when I started digging. I pulled records from years before the remodel, back when the ICU layout was different, back when room 18 used to be 2 rooms, not 1. I had to ask an older charge nurse, Amy, who'd been there 15 years. She hesitated when I mentioned the name, then said, Mira was a little girl. Leukemia, died in that room before they knocked the wall down. Her parents couldn't afford the bills. They used to sit by her bed for hours, reading to her. No insurance. Hospital tried to transfer her out, but she trailed off. She died alone, didn't she? I asked. Amy nodded. No discharge, no goodbye. The family disappeared after that. We don't talk about it much. I started writing her name on the glass when the fog came. Every time it appeared, I'd trace it over, gently, as if to say, I see you. After that, the name started appearing less frequently. The fog came, but the letters were absent. Sometimes just a partial M, sometimes nothing at all, until the night I forgot. I was exhausted, short-staffed, managing 3 patients on my own. I walked past room 18 without looking, didn't stop, didn't write her name. That night, the emergency call light tripped from room 18, but it was empty, and written in tall, jagged letters across the entire glass wall. Don't forget me. I couldn't move, not because I was afraid, but because I had. Since then, I make sure room 18 is never alone. Even when it's empty, I stop by. I leave a small note taped to the side table with her name on it. Just her name, nothing else. The glass still fogs sometimes, but the name stays absent, like she's finally resting. Still, some nights, when I turn off the hallway light, I swear I see her handwriting just beginning to form again. Faint, slow. I wait a moment, watch, then whisper, "I haven't forgotten." It fades every time. That's how I know she's listening. People think ghosts are loud, violent, screaming things, but some just want to be remembered. Some just want their name spoken once more, and that's what I carry now, not the horror, the responsibility. The whiteboard outside room 6 always has the same note in the corner, no matter who updates it. Discharge time, TBA. At first I thought it was just poor coordination. Maybe no one knew when transport would arrive, or maybe the discharge kept getting pushed. But the room's always occupied by someone new, always someone on the edge of leaving, or the edge of something else, and still the note stays. I've erased it myself before, only to find it rewritten in the same loopy handwriting that doesn't match anyone on the unit staff. I'm Devon, I'm 32, an ICU nurse, and I've worked days and nights, doubles and floats for 7 years. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't imagine things. At least I didn't. Not before room 6. There's something about it. Not the room itself. It's standard, same layout, same worn linoleum floor, same beige walls. But the patients who go in there, they never leave the way they're supposed to. My first shift with that room was during orientation. I shadowed a senior nurse, Judy, who was assigned to a middle-aged man recovering from post-op complications. Mr. Rule, stable vitals, alert, walking the halls by his second night. Discharge was scheduled for 9 a.m. the next day. They even brought his clothes up from his locker. But when we checked on him that morning, he was gone, not dead, not transferred, gone. His bed was made, his chart was blank, his name was no longer in the system. I thought it was a tech error. Judy didn't seem surprised. Room 6, she muttered, shaking her head. Figures. I asked what she meant, but she just walked off. Over time, I started noticing it myself. A woman who'd recovered from pneumonia, talking about her daughter's wedding and making plans for the weekend, was found unresponsive an hour before her discharge. Cause undetermined. Autopsy inconclusive. Another patient, a younger man with mild trauma, requested early release. The physician approved it. The discharge papers were signed. He even called for a ride. But when we checked on him 20 minutes later, he was sitting upright in bed, eyes open, not breathing. Still warm. The board still said, discharge time TBA. I started documenting the patterns, quietly, keeping track. In 3 months, 8 patients were assigned to room 6. 5 died within 24 hours of scheduled discharge. 2 were inexplicably transferred with no trace of paperwork. 1 was never admitted, according to the logs. Though I remember his face clearly. He said to me once, "I don't think I'm supposed to leave." I asked what he meant. He just smiled and said, "I feel like something's waiting for me out there, and something else is waiting in here." That night, he vanished. No witness, no alarm. I asked security for footage. The cameras covering room 6 had malfunctioned during his disappearance. The next night, I sat outside the room during my break, just watching. It was empty, but the door creaked open on its own around 2 a.m. I got up, heart pounding, and peered inside. The light was off. The air smelled different, damp, stale, like an old attic, and for just a moment, I saw something move in the shadows beside the bed. Not a person, not clearly, just a shape, like someone standing at the foot of the mattress. When I turned the light on, the room was empty, but on the bed was a clipboard, discharge paperwork, signed by a name I didn't recognize, one that wasn't attached to any current or previous patient. No date, just time of departure unknown. I took it to my manager. She told me not to talk about it again. Room 6 has had a lot of attention over the years, she said. Just let it be. I asked her what she meant. She didn't answer, but the next day, room 6 was taken off the room rotation. Under maintenance, the schedule said. It stayed dark for a week. Then it came back on the roster, with no changes, and the whiteboard still had the note, discharge time TBA. The thing is, not all the patients know something's wrong. Some of them smile, chat, make plans. They don't see the pattern, but others feel it. One elderly woman, Mrs. Calder, grabbed my hand the morning of her discharge and whispered, "It won't let me go." I asked who. She nodded toward the ceiling. "The thing in the vents. It's watching who leaves and who pretends to." She died during vitals checks. Less than an hour later. Heart stopped. No signs. Nothing on the monitors. I found the vent cover above her bed slightly ajar. I replaced it, but I've never stopped hearing the hum above room 6. It's louder there, less mechanical, like breathing. I've begun to think room 6 isn't a room at all. It's a threshold, a waiting room for something that isn't transport, for someone who's supposed to leave, but can't, or shouldn't. I had a dream a few nights ago about standing in room 6 and hearing the discharge bell chime over and over, but no one leaving, just footsteps outside the door, dozens of them, like they were circling. I woke up to find a discharge bracelet on my nightstand with my name. I've never worn one home before. Now I avoid that room. I trade assignments if I have to, but sometimes when I walk past it, I see the board still has that note in the corner. Fresh, clean, not faded like it should be. Discharge time, TBA. Always in the same writing, always the same pen. And now sometimes I feel it, that the room is waiting for me, because maybe we all have a room 6 inside us, a place we don't leave cleanly, a hallway that doesn't end, a line on a form that never gets filled in, and a time of departure that never gets called.